Mado, he is a fucking dick. Seriously. And why is he wielding around Renji's Zabimaru from Bleach? Like, what the fuck? This episode, it starts off from where it last left off, which it was inevitable. It was going to be a tragic outcome. And ultimately, Hinami's mom bit the big one. And it's like, I understand when a motherfucker like the previous Nishio, Nishio's turned over a new leaf, but I can understand when a ghoul like the old Nishio that was an asshole that killed people and didn't give a shit, go after him or whatever with full force, not giving a shit. But when you're going against a woman with a child that it's clear as day there's some sort of relation there, whatnot, and you're just full force beheading right there in the middle of the street, it's like, oh my gosh, this Mado guy, I really hope they kick him out of, his task force or whatever, because it's like, at the end of the day, look what he's doing. He's like the only one that doesn't give a fuck. He loses a crewmate, dies, and he's like, he don't give a shit. He's like, what? I'm not going to show up. I don't give a fuck. No, I just want to stroke my new sword, my Zabimaru. It's like, really, bro? Mado? Asshole. So this week's episode, it kicked off with Hinami's mom, biting Big One and whatnot. Don't want to be redundant about it, but oh my gosh, with that censoring stuff, please, I hope that's not censored out on the Blu-rays, because that wasn't even that negative shit or, kind of panning off. It just completely went off of the scene and you just see blood pouring down. I really hope that wasn't like total censorship altogether. I hope we actually get to see a little bit more of that in the actual, DVDs and Blu-rays or whatever when they come out. But that was just such a fucking tragic death for one of the decent ghouls. It's like, if you're going to go after the fucked up ghouls that don't give a fuck about killing people or whatever, then so be it. But oh my gosh, it's like you went after a not innocent, but for the most part, pretty decent person. And Mado doesn't even look at them as like anything next to human. He looks at them as complete animals, which just goes to show how fucked up Mado is. And if anything, he's the animal, and goes back to my discussion last week, like, comparing it to Shiki, where it's almost as if the humans are more monster-like than the actual creatures. You can see that Mado is, for the most part, the biggest dick, I think. Like, some of the other people on his team, for example, they were actually really sad when one of their comrades died. You got Amon there not feeling good. You got a lot of these people actually genuinely feeling sad for their own people. So I think the biggest asshole of them all is Mado. I really hope at some given point that they take him out. Like, with the setup that we had at the end of this episode, I'm really looking forward to next week seeing him getting his ass kicked really bad and begging for his life, because he's a piece of shit. This episode also served in character development for Kaneki, because not only did he have to witness this and try to shield Hinami from this, he realized he can't stand on the sidelines. He's still on the whole fence of killing people. He's kind of like, I'm not going to kill, but I will help out with Touka against, the inspectors or whatnot. But at least we got some character development where he's like, I'm not going to be on the sidelines anymore. And I was really glad at the end of the episode we finally got to see him don the mask, which I can't wait to see what that's going to do and how crazy he's going to get when he puts that shit on, because he looked like a psycho when he had that on. I was real curious after Touka flipped out, which, by the way, they definitely looked out on her, especially like the butler guy. You can see that he was really disappointed in what she did, attacking the doves and whatnot. But ultimately, I was curious, how the hell did she find out their location and exactly who it was she was looking for? The location, it could possibly be explained that they already know because they're not hiding. The inspectors aren't in a hidden location. But how she knew exactly who it was that she needed to look for, I don't know if they skipped over that, and probably the manga actually showed that. That was one thing that kind of had me a little bit curious, and I was just kind of like, is she psychic? And when she attacked them, I was just thinking like, this bitch is crazy. And Mado shows up with his Zabimaru like, what are you doing, bitch? I was just like, this is insane. And you could definitely see that the Doves, they have a real fighting chance. Again, it almost feels as though the ghouls are oppressed by the Doves, because the fucking inspectors are there like whipping their asses. When have we seen, aside from her quick little swift attack without them knowing it, when have we seen them go full force against one of these Doves that actually have their weapons and actually come out on top? We haven't seen any of the ghouls do that. So I really feel like the message here is sometimes, and I said it last week, I'll say it again, sometimes humanity can be the bigger monster than the actual monsters we're calling monsters. So that definitely keeps being implied, especially with a piece of shit like Mado in this episode. And overall, this was a good setup. This episode, it started off beheading, crazy shit, and then it just kind of was setting things up and kind of giving a different perspective on things. This time seeing the inspectors and how they grieve when they lose, and kind of seeing that they're not all pieces of shit like Mado. Mado's the fucking poster boy for dickwads, but ultimately they're not all bad. So this was a good episode for the most part. I enjoyed it. I felt it did a couple different things, and ultimately it just really showed that Mado is a piece of shit. And just seeing Touka trying to struggle with what happened and kind of coming to terms with it, but at the same time still wanting revenge, it kind of makes you wonder, is Kaneki in the right for backing Touka? Because the butler guy was just disgusting. He's like, no, we already discussed this. You weren't supposed to do that. So you can definitely see it kind of makes you wonder, is Kaneki in the right with siding with Touka and saying he's going to help her? Definitely makes you question a couple things. But again, good episode. I'm going to give this one 7.5 out of 10. It was good setup and ultimately giving a little bit more character development to Kaneki. And just the beginning of this episode, it was like, it was so crazy, but, oh, the censorship, and I hate to keep bringing it up because I was promising myself I wasn't going to bring it up, but it's like, I really hope that it's not a permanent censorship because it just completely went off camera and all we saw was blood, which it still had an impact, but yeah. But let me know what you thought of this episode on a scale of 1 through 10. How much do you hate this motherfucker Mado with his zombie Maru? It's like, I want to strangle that bastard. He's such an asshole. Also, Kaneki with the mask. What do you think? Do you think that he looked beast? Just overall thoughts. This episode was a good episode, and it's just really focusing on character development and giving different perspectives, not only on the ghouls, but on the humans as well and what they're dealing with on their lives. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be awesome. I'm Finette World, and as always, people, have an awesome day. Mado, he is a fucking dick. Seriously. And why is he wielding around Renji's Zabi Maru from Bleach? Like, what the fuck? This episode, it starts off from where I last left off, which it was inevitable. It was going to be a tragic outcome. And ultimately, Hinami's mom bit the big one. And it's like, I understand when a motherfucker like the previous Nishio, you know, Nishio's turned over a new leaf. But I can understand when a ghoul like the old Nishio that was an asshole that killed people and didn't give a shit, you know, go after him or whatever with full force, not giving a shit. But when you're going against a woman with a child that it's clear as day there's some sort of relation there, you know, whatnot, and you're just full force beheading right there in the middle of the street, it's like, oh my gosh, this Mado guy, I really hope they kick him out of, you know, his task force or whatever, because it's like, at the end of the day, look what he's doing. He's like the only one that doesn't give a fuck. He loses